Have you ever wondered what the oldest story in the world really says about being human? In the ancient cities of Mesopotamia, long before Homer or the Bible, someone carved onto clay tablets the tale of a king. Not just any king, but a man so powerful, so flawed, and so full of questions about life and death that his story still echoes through time. His name was Gilgamesh. This is not just a story about war or conquest. It is about friendship, fear, transformation, and the desperate search for meaning. It begins in Uruk, one of the first great cities ever built, where Gilgamesh ruled with unmatched strength. But with that strength came arrogance. Gilgamesh was 2/3 god and 1/3 human, and he ruled his people without mercy. The people of Uruk, exhausted by their king's cruelty, cried out to the gods for help. The gods listened, but instead of punishing Gilgamesh directly, they came up with something different. They created a rival. A reflection, a challenge. His name was Enkidu. Enkidu was born in the wilderness, far from civilization. His body was covered in hair. He ran with gazelles, drank from streams, and lived as one with the animals. He knew nothing of cities, kings, or laws. He was strong and free, untouched by human society. To bring him into the world of people, the gods sent a woman named Shamhat. She approached Enkidu not with weapons or threats, but with kindness. She gave him food and water. She spoke to him of Uruk, of Gilgamesh, and of the wonders and dangers of the world beyond the forest. As Enkidu listened, something began to change within him. He accepted the food, he drank the wine, he learned to speak, to think in new ways, to feel things he had never felt before. With every moment, the wildness faded. He was no longer just a beast of the land. He was becoming something more, something human. When Enkidu finally entered the city of Uruk, he was met with awe and fear. And when Gilgamesh came to claim his traditional right to a bride in the temple, Enkidu stood in his way. What followed was a fight so fierce that the ground shook beneath them. To giants, to forces of nature colliding. The city held its breath, and then something unexpected happened. The fight ended in laughter. Gilgamesh and Enkidu, instead of destroying each other, discovered a strange and powerful connection. They became friends, not just allies, but brothers in spirit. From that day on, they were inseparable. Together, they would go on a journey that would change them both forever. A journey into the heart of danger, to face monsters, challenge the gods, and search for something deeper than glory. But what exactly were they looking for, and how far would they be willing to go? That is the beginning of their story. In part 2, we will follow them as they venture into the sacred cedar forest to confront a creature so terrifying that even the gods feared it. What would you risk to make your name last forever? After forming a deep bond, Gilgamesh and Enkidu were no longer satisfied with life inside the walls of Uruk. Gilgamesh longed for something greater. He dreamed of entering the cedar forest, a sacred and forbidden place watched over by Humbaba, a monstrous being created by the gods. No mortal had ever dared to face him, but Gilgamesh saw it as his chance to become immortal through fame. Enkidu was afraid. He had lived near that forest in his wild days. He had heard Humbaba's roar from a distance. He knew the power of that guardian. Still, he chose to go with Gilgamesh. Their friendship gave him courage. Before they left, the people of Uruk offered prayers and gifts. Blacksmiths forged powerful weapons. Priests blessed them with sacred words. Then they walked into the unknown. As they traveled, Gilgamesh began having strange dreams. In one, mountains collapsed. In another, fire rained from the sky. He woke each time shaken and uncertain. Enkidu listened carefully and told him the dreams were not warnings, but signs. The gods were speaking to them through symbols. Victory was possible. After many days, they arrived at the edge of the cedar forest. The trees were massive and still. No birds sang, no wind moved the leaves. The air was thick and heavy. Then they heard it. A deep and slow breathing coming from somewhere within. They stepped forward, entering the sacred woods. The scent of cedar filled their lungs, shadows moved, then Humbaba appeared. He was unlike any creature they had seen. His face seemed to change shape with every breath. His voice shook the ground beneath them. He warned them to leave. He said the gods would punish any who dared cross into their forest, but Gilgamesh refused to step back. The battle began. Gilgamesh swung his axe, Enkidu fought by his side. Humbaba's strength was terrifying. Trees fell, the sky darkened. The ground cracked, the fight shook the forest. At one point, Humbaba cried out and begged for mercy. He offered to serve Gilgamesh, to build great temples and protect Uruk for the rest of his life. Gilgamesh hesitated, his heart wavered. But Enkidu urged him to finish what they had started. He warned that if they let Humbaba live, he would return with revenge. Gilgamesh listened. With one final blow, Humbaba fell. Silence returned to the forest. They had won. But something felt wrong. The air was colder, the trees seemed darker. The silence was no longer peaceful, it was heavy. As if the world itself disapproved of what they had done. This was not just a victory, it was a turning point. After defeating Humbaba, Gilgamesh and Enkidu returned to Uruk as heroes. The people celebrated, songs were sung, their fame spread across the land. But their victory came at a cost they did not yet understand. The gods had not forgotten the sacredness of the cedar forest. Humbaba had been placed there by divine command. His death was not just bold, it was an offense. Soon after, the goddess Ishtar approached Gilgamesh. She offered herself in marriage, but he refused her and mocked her past lovers. Enraged, Ishtar demanded revenge. She called down the bull of heaven, a divine beast of destruction. The bull brought famine and terror to the people of Uruk. But Gilgamesh and Enkidu stood together once more. They killed the bull and saved their city. Still, the gods had seen enough. They met in council. One of the two heroes had to die. The balance between mortals and gods had been broken. Enkidu fell ill. His body weakened. He dreamed of the underworld, a place of dust and silence. He cursed the gates of Uruk. He cursed the gods, and then he died. Gilgamesh was shattered. He had lost his closest friend, and for the first time, he saw death as something real. Something even kings could not escape. He left Uruk behind and wandered in search of immortality. He crossed deserts and mountains. He faced beasts and darkness. Finally, he found Utnapishtim, a man who had survived the great flood and was granted eternal life by the gods. Gilgamesh begged him for the secret. Utnapishtim told him the truth. Life must end. That is the nature of being human, but he gave Gilgamesh one last chance. At the bottom of the sea was a plant that could restore youth. Gilgamesh found the plant, but as he rested, a serpent stole it. The chance was gone. He returned to Uruk with nothing in his hands, but everything had changed. He looked at the walls of the city, the people, the world he had helped build. And he finally understood. Immortality is not about living forever, it is about what we create. The stories we pass on, the love we give, the courage we share. The Epic of Gilgamesh ends not with a conquest, but with understanding. If this ancient story moved you, follow this channel for more legends from around the world. There is always another story waiting to be told.